Hello, fathers and grandfathers. Welcome to another episode of Being a Present Father and Grandfather. I'm your host, Nufo Perez, and let me tell you, we've got an exciting episode for you today. It is an episode that's just going to say Christmas all over it, right? But anyway, I tell you what, we've got a great guest with us that's going to share some wonderful wisdom about being a present father. So, hey, without further ado, I don't even need to make an introduction of this man because you can see by the person right next to me here who he is. So let's welcome and let's just start off with tell us a little bit about yourself and tell us a kind of an inspiration of how you became who you are.
Well, thank you, Nufo, for that wonderful introduction. I uh, I I started gaining weight as I grew a little older, and my beard came in pretty nice and full. And I was working a job up by Dallas, and some kids started calling me Santa Claus. And I went home and I said to my wife, "I'm going to buy a Santa suit." And I ordered one. It was about $350, my first suit. And it came and I put on the jacket and I said, "Hey, honey, look at this." And she turned around and she looked at me and started laughing. And I've been off to the races ever since. 10 years now.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
10. I still got some more beard to grow to get it's getting white, but I got a long ways to go.
You're going in the right direction. It's very white. Mine looks whiter in light. It's really not as white as I would like, but I'm not going to bleach it.
It's very natural. Very, very natural.
Yeah, it's totally natural.
Yeah.
So that's the look that I prefer.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you deal with a lot of kids and a lot of people, in the profession that you do. Um, and now that we're in this pandemic or COVID, how has this kind of affected you?
Well, this is hopefully a year that we never repeat again. I never thought I'd see anything like this in my lifetime. For me this year, it has meant zero personal appearances. Typically, I would do 25 or 30 in-home shows. Might be a kid's party, might be a slumber party, might be an adult party. But I'd do 25 shows in the month of December, and I'm doing zero. It's just for one thing, I could carry it around and not know it and go from house to house. And for the other thing, I have, what are those? The word comorbidities. That means you have pre-existing conditions. I'm fat.
Yeah.
So yeah, it means there's been no Santa this year. I did a very small live appearance on Facebook with the mayor of my city as we lit the Christmas tree. There were no guests, and I did a drive-through where you could drive past me and hand me your wish list out the window of your car. And I would turn around and let the photographer over there shoot a picture of us.
Wow.
No contact. And even that made me nervous.
Yeah, I could imagine.
I tested negative last Thursday. So
that's great.
I don't go anywhere. I'm quarantined still, basically. And I have travel fever so bad. I can't see kids when they're sleeping unless I'm traveling. And so all the kids are on the nice list this year.
That's good. That's good. So all your elves wear masks, I'm assuming, right?
We're starting to think that everyone up here is inherently immune because we've had zero cases at the North Pole.
Wow, that is awesome. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, that's great.
That's right. Another reason for me not to be out on the streets right now.
So this year, with zero kids being able to see Santa, because of the pandemic and all, this is probably one of the worst experiences as Santa. But do you have any other worst experiences that you've had as Santa?
When I decided to do this, I didn't really understand how to do it, and so every year I go through a little reintroduction. That but around October, I'm saying I don't look like him anymore. I'm lousy at it. A little crisis of confidence. Yeah, I mean, I had a job. I had an hour to be at my next job, and I was at my car, and I took off my jacket and threw it in the back door, and I threw my phone and my keys over the seat and shut the back door, and the car locked. So Santa's in the parking lot at Sam's Club, and had to call Papa Lock to get me into my car. I've been to jobs and forgot my belt. And my wife had to bring my belt to me to be able to go do the gig. But the very first public gig I did was an adult party in a bar. So I had a kind of an easy introduction. You know, all the party goers were like, "Oh, it's Santa Claus," and I'm blessed to have the looks. So I just sort of rode with it. But you know, now it's 8 years in. I'm pretty cut and dry now.
Definitely a pro at it.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. So I bet that Papa Lock guy got a good Christmas present under his tree.
Well, there's some things about that guy that only Santa Claus could know. But yeah, I was definitely appreciative. I did make it to the next gig on time. And
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, you know, when you're doing corporate gigs, they're actually quite lucrative, and so you don't want to mess them up. They'll never call you again.
Yeah. So 10 years now. Wow, that's a long time. Do you remember your very first? Well, I think you mentioned it about being in that adult party thing.
The Greater Houston Mortgage Professionals Party. Yeah, that was. I mean, if you've ever seen my Facebook page, you might have seen a picture with me with a couple of elves, and that was from back then. So maybe it's only been 8 years.
Well, 8, 10, who can count?
2012. Well, once you pass
8 years. 8 years.
Yeah, it's 8 years. It's not 10.
Yeah.
Shame on me.
That's all right. What 2 years isn't much, especially at our age, right?
Thank you.
So tell me, Santa, you're a father. You've got some children. Yeah. So as you shared your experiences as your first experience as being a Santa, what do you remember about your first experience being a father?
My oldest son was born in 1988. So by then I was 36. I had a little advantage. I was a little bit older than a lot of young husbands, young fathers. Oh, excuse me. But what I remember is that I didn't know anything about being a father. And we didn't really have the Google that we have now, which, you know, I've learned will answer any question I have in the world. But yeah, just not knowing anything, and everything was a new adventure. And all the stories about lack of sleep, that's kind of true. I didn't really think fathers had to change diapers, but they do.
Oh yeah. I changed mine. Yeah.
I'm quite good at it.
I remember when my oldest son had his boy, right? His baby. You know, he had a trouble doing those first few diaper changes, you know, so, you know, Dad came to the rescue and helped him change it. But after a while, he's getting to the diaper changing as well, you know.
You know, once you get past the fact that it'll wash off, then you'll be all right.
Yeah. You know, I had, speaking of, like you mentioned about, you didn't know, you know, we didn't have the Google back then and stuff. When my first son was born, we had a friend that gave us a book of the big book of why. And it was this big, thick book that just had question and answers to all kinds of things, you know.
The big book of why.
The big book of whys, you know. Why is the grass green, or why, you know, this or that. So, yeah. So you've got 3 boys, correct?
I do. John, Michael, and Curtis.
What is something that surprised you as a father having 3 boys?
It surprised me how much they hang on every word I say, and it really makes an impression on them. which caused me to be more careful with things that I say and do. It was they're pretty malleable when they're young,
Yeah. Yeah.
and they're also impressionable, and that surprised me a lot.
Yeah.
I thought I would cruise right through it.
You hit on exactly some of the things that we touch on in some of our other episodes, and how one is how malleable our children are, and
It's a great
especially
one.
between the ages of 3 and 7 or whatever, right?
Yeah,
But the biggest thing is you mentioned, it's like everything you say and do, they hang on to everything that you just did. They're watching you, right?
yeah.
They're watching everything you do because you're their example on becoming an adult, becoming a father, or becoming a mother if it's daughters, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, that's really important. That's something that, we are no longer our single
Happy-go-lucky selves.
happy-go-lucky. That's right.
Yeah, my boys are all in their 30s now, and they still watch me, and
Yeah.
they still come to me for advice. So that's a good
Y-
thing.
Yeah, my younger son was he lives in California, and he was moving, right? He was moving, and he sends me this picture of him in the U-Haul, and he said, Dad, he said, I felt like you driving this U-Haul, moving the stuff, And so it's all those things, all those experiences that they had with us growing up, they're seeing it, and I see a lot of things of my dad in me when I'm doing things.
That
And
happens to me all the time. I'll say
yeah,
a sentence and I go, wait a minute. I just heard my dad's voice, not my voice.
yeah,
And I'm
exactly.
like, wait a minute, it's happening.
Yeah.
The change is here.
So, talking about those things that surprise you, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about what's a common myth or misconception about being a dad that you'd like to kind of call out.
I think maybe the biggest misconception is that raising the child is the mom's job.
Oh,
I don't know. I thought about that question when I first saw it, because you gave me the list ahead of time, like any good politician would demand. I think that the myth is that the male doesn't have to work as hard, but that's not true at all.
yeah,
It's the more you put into it, the better the team effort becomes. And
yeah,
so that's I guess the one that I would call out, that it's a woman's job to raise the kids.
yeah, man, that is a good one, man, because that is the whole presence of being a present father. That's the whole thing. It's like,
I was just
we
thinking that.
we can't be on the sidelines, and we got to be present in our children, in raising our children, right? And
Absolutely.
yeah, and that is a big common misconception and myth, that the child raising is the mom's job and the dad's to bring home the bacon and work, right? But
Well,
no, today, and it shouldn't have ever been, but it's we have to be active in our
when
in
I
our
was a child, I mean, my dad was around, but he always had two jobs. I mean, we weren't rich, but we weren't poor at all, and he was working almost all the time. Chances are, if I was interacting with my dad in the house, it was disciplinary. But outside, it would be him and I doing things.
Yeah,
He's a pretty good guy. He was present, but not as often as I was during my kids.
yeah.
I had one job uh, the whole time I was raising my children, and actually, I did have two for a while.
Well,
You know,
that's
times being what they are.
yeah, that's one thing. I've had discussions with my kids, and they were actually guests on one of my previous episodes too, on there. And one of the things that I regret or wish that I would have done different is to be there for them more, because when they were growing up, I was spending a lot of time at work and I was doing all kinds of things. But I mean, I still got involved with their school activities and always went, took my older boy, was a coach for Little League and things like that, and went to all my younger son's football games. but I didn't. I wish I could have spent more time with them.
Yeah.
Build that. But and then from my father's standpoint, he was a great dad. I mean, I learned a lot of things from him. But one thing that I don't ever remember is him being at any of my sporting events or any of my school events. The only one that
Really?
the only one that he
Hmm.
attended was my college graduation. You know,
Ah,
but he was still a good dad. He was that dad that was the supporter of the family and making sure the protector of the family. And one thing that I remember is he would not eat until his family ate. So he would be the last one to get his plate and get his food. He wanted to
ah,
make sure that his kids and his wife had food and were supported. So
that's
those are the good
awesome.
qualities. Yeah,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yeah.
Well, my dad took me out a couple years for sports, and if I wanted to do something, he would try to make it happen. In fact, I more than once I went to his part-time job with him, and looking back, I realize now what a pain in the ass I was for him, to have me at that place because I wanted to get into things, and he was a machinist, so I wanted to crank that drill press, and I wanted to drill metal, and I
Yeah.
wanted to understand how the lathe was working, and why can't I touch those curly metal shavings? So I didn't mean to swear.
That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, I was though as a child, but he would take me. He would hang out with me when he could, and if it meant taking me to work, he would take me to work.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great. Yeah.
part time he could do that.
Well, I shared a little bit a while ago about, what my kids think about me a little bit, and so the next question kind of leads into this for you. How would your children describe you?
Yeah, it's different generation. I think they'd say that I'm cool, but that I'm strict. Uh, I- you know, I guess I got that from my dad. I'm a little bit of a perfectionist when I see them doing something. And they do so many things a little differently than I would do it. When I was a child, cars were different, for example. If we had a broken car, chances are my dad was out in the driveway fixing it. Regardless of the problem, all the way up to an oil pump I've seen him do on the ground in front of the house. But now I don't think my kids even understand how an internal combustion engine works. So they would say I'm cool and that I'm easygoing. They might, if you have their confidence, they might tell you I didn't teach them very much. But I tried. I tried.
So do you think they've taken a lot of those qualities as I mean, I'm sure they're older now, right?
All in the 30s.
Yeah. So on there's, you think they've picked up your qualities of being that type of a person, in terms of,
Children
well, in
are
terms of just them
laid back.
being, yeah, acting in the world, being kind of easygoing, cool, but perfectionist type.
Well, they got a little bit more from their mom, I'm sure. I think when these boys, I moved out away from them, not far, just same city, but had to separate from their mother about 18, 19 years ago. It's a while ago, maybe 20. I'll have to ask Mrs. Claus. She'll know exactly. But so they did a lot of growing up with their mom, which is a whole different value set and a whole nother episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I think they picked up some of my qualities. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't think they can help it.
Yeah. Well, you were there during their growing, their years, formative years. So that's,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so as we're talking about that, what's the one thing you wish you would have done different with your boys when they were growing up?
I just touched on it a minute ago. I wish that I would have taught them more about the practical side of life. You see sometimes a meme where it says they should have a course in high school where they teach kids to balance a checkbook, change a flat tire, all these things they don't know how to do now because
Yeah.
everything's automated, and in their minds they can sit at their desk all day and be a computer guy. I wish I'd have taught them more about the practical side of life.
I agree with you there because I probably feel the same way. I wish I would have taught my children a little bit more. I mean, even things as I did later on in life, like change a tire or do just basic stuff that they don't really learn anywhere. And
Right.
yeah, and so today this both my kids, when they have an issue with their car or something, they'll call me and say, "Hey, how do you do this?" or "What do you think is wrong with my vehicle?" And yeah, I wish I would have been able to teach that when they were teenagers.
Oh man, I've seen, two of them have lost cars in floods, and I guess I never told them don't drive into water at night. One of them lost a car from not changing fluids or checking fluids. That one hurt because that was a nice car.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, well, it was an auction car. I mean, we don't buy nice cars.
Hey,
It was a good running auction car,
there
and
you go.
and he
It's all
killed.
good cars. It gets you to from point A to point B. It's a good car.
It was reliable, yes.
Yeah.
And if he had been taught a little better, he might not have driven it home with the engine light on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
just practicalities. I guess I could have given them a little more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
you talked a little bit about your dad and how your dad was and stuff like that. And how is the relationship your father has with your children? Is it different than the relationship that your father had with you?
it's totally different. He's a grandfather, but
Yeah.
and that comes with a whole different type of love, really. But in the background, I can still see my dad. Well, he's gone now. He's passed
Oh,
some
sorry.
years back, but that's okay. It's all right. I'm old, Nufo. But when he was with my children, he was still quick to discipline them. Remember, he was the disciplinarian when I was growing up. Although my mom would break off a switch if she needed to, also. But yeah, he was a little softer with them, but at the same time, protective. He was a much better father than I was, in my opinion. If I'm half the man he was as a father, then I did okay.
It sounds like he did really good because I mean, I tell you what, I've known you for a few years, and I think you're a hell of a man, and I think that a lot of that came from how your father raised you and your mom raised you, right? So,
Oh, it's everything, don't you think?
oh, definitely, it
It's
is.
how you raise your kids is everything. It sets
Yeah.
their, I guess. I mean, in my mind, it is.
Well, yeah, it's like we were talking about earlier. They're watching us, everything that we do.
Absolutely,
If
definitely.
we tell them, to wear your seatbelt, but yet they see us without a seatbelt, then why do I need to wear it?
Yeah,
That's just an
you're
example.
right.
Yeah. So, we're talking about present father. You hit on a lot of good things, a lot of good points that, we're trying to kind of focus on in this podcast. And that's, how to be a present father. And you hit some points about being there, not letting your the mother handle all of the child raising, right? It's a joint effort. And then the things about, they're watching us and everything we do. When you think about being a present father, how would you define that? What would you define present father?
I mean, to really be a present father to me would mean that my children always know that I'm there if they need me, or that I'm going to be there if they need a father and don't realize they need me, if you follow me. I'm watching what they're doing from the sidelines, I hope, ready to assist if I'm asked, or correct if I need to, or protect. Just being aware of what's going on. The guy that says, well, when did he start smoking cigarettes? probably wasn't a present father. You know,
Yeah.
I don't know. That's not even, now that I think back, I had a time in my life when I smoked. You remember the book, The Stub of a Pipe, right?
Yeah.
Don't smoke, kids. I think it means being aware of what your children are doing.
If that's for me, I'm not here.
Yeah, I hear you. So it was the elves workshop. We've had an issue with the truck line, but it's no big deal.
Kind of get those toys put together.
It's 6 days now.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, 7 days, 8 days, 8 days till I fly. So,
Getting the reindeer ready.
oh, they're ready. They're rock stars, especially Rudolph. They only
Yeah.
fly. They only fly once a year because it takes all they have to get around the world in one day.
I would imagine that's pretty
Well, that's
fast.
a
Yeah.
lot of magic too. But the rest of the year, they live the good life. So I'm the one that goes out and does visits. And Mrs. Claus is always making cookies. So
I bet she's a great baker. I bet she makes some great cookies.
yeah, when she will, she does. Of course she is. She's Mrs. Claus.
That's right. That's right.
So that's what a present father is, one who's aware of what's going on and who stands ready to do his role. When
Yeah.
needed. So
Yeah.
in my mind.
Yeah, exactly right. And I think you also hit a little bit that, there are some things that they probably do that we don't know, but when you have that relationship with your children of being that present father, they in my experience, they open up to you and tell you things.
Absolutely they will.
And
Absolutely.
yeah. I mean, even to this day, my older boys, they will call me and tell me things that they normally wouldn't, that you wouldn't notice a son tell their father, because it's like, I want to keep that from him, doing whatever thing, if they mess up or whatever. And they're not calling me and telling me that because they're confessing that they did something wrong. But, it's like, hey, Dad, what do I do in this situation? I messed up. I did this, And,
If your child's doing that, it's a really big sign that they have complete trust in you and in your wisdom. And that's really a good thing to earn, that trust
yeah.
and to protect.
Yeah, that's one thing that I'm very grateful for, that we have that relationship as their adults,
Yeah.
I mean, one's a father himself, and the other one is he's in his mid-20s, so it's good to have that relationship.
He's in that time of his life.
Yeah, he's in that time, but he's gotten settling down.
I could do the mid-20s once more, maybe.
Yeah, those are some fun times. I think if I was ever to want to be a certain age that I was before, I think 25, 26 years old was probably the age that I probably had the most fun. Yeah.
For me, the 20s was in the 70s.
Oh, okay, yeah.
It was a pretty good time. Anyway.
Yeah. So one of the things that we we talked about being present father. It's kind of almost a final question, but I want to touch a little bit more before I get to the final question about what kind of, I guess, advice, or what do you see when you're out there with the children? What kind of things do you see? Do you recognize a difference in a child with a present father versus a child with not a present father?
Oh, yeah.
That's a tough one, man.
It's when I do let's say I do Christmas on Main Street, which was canceled this year, but typically I'm doing photos in town square for 3 hours and the line never stops. So one group will come in and the father's with the wife and they're helping the child to get psyched up to come and see me or whatever, or posing with the child next to me. They're involved in the whole sequence. And other children are just the fathers hang back at the rail or walk off the podium while the child gets the picture. It's, come on, Jimmy, let's go. There's a different attitude about fathers that, in my opinion, are demonstrating that they're present compared to fathers that are just there because the wife dragged them out. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, it makes perfect sense.
You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah. They're there, but they're really not there.
If you're watching, you can see that, just like you
Yeah.
said, especially when you're sitting in your Santa chair and just observing what's going on, because that's all I do. I mean, I try to see the ones that are going to cry when they're 10 feet away. And the fathers can help me a lot to keep them from crying. Some do and some do not.
Yeah. I bet you can also notice the ones that feel comfortable that the father's there and protector and going to support them versus those that basically aren't.
Well, sadly, the divorce rate is what, 50% nowadays, or 60% or something. There's so many people that are not with the mate that they swore to spend their life with. And the children are caught up in that mess. So,
yeah. Wow. Well, Santa, we've got about 5 minutes left. I got one last question for you. Last question is, if you had to leave, you're leaving this world, you're going off to the North Pole to stay forever and no contact, and all your knowledge is going with you. Everything that you've ever taught your boys, everything you've ever taught, everything's going with you. What are three, but you can leave 3 main knowledge points or 3 pieces of advice for your children? What 3 would that be?
3, I think the main one is the golden rule. Treat people the way you want them to treat you. And then I guess I would go from there. Save your money. Start early. It seems like a pain, but if you get used to putting 10 cents of every dollar away, you'll be a happy man when you're my age. And come and visit your pop every once in a while.
There you go. Yeah. Those are great 3. Those are great 3. Yeah. So as we're running down on time, I want one opportunity. If someone wanted to book you for a Christmas event right now, I guess virtually, but maybe, next year when we're back out of the pandemic, how would they reach you? How can they book you? I know you're in the Houston area.
Well, the best way to reach me is probably to just look me up on Facebook, Santa Ed, or look me up on Facebook as Ed Kangas, Kangas, and send me a message. I mean, you want my phone number? I don't mind.
Well, it's up to you. Whatever you want to share for people to get a hold of you.
Well, if you want to just text me, I'm at 832-244-3670. And Santa, since he knows so many people, does happen to know an excellent realtor.
There you go, folks. You heard it.
You need house buying help, I can do that.
There you go. You're looking for a house, call Santa Ed. He can help you out. Yeah.
Well, thank you for having me out here.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Santa Ed. I really appreciate it. Enjoyed the advice you gave. I'm looking at the time, and I think we might be cut off soon. But yeah, but thank you again. And I really appreciate the advice and the experiences that you shared, and we'll keep in touch.
We'll talk soon, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Merry Christmas.
All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. Thanks. All right. Got the bells and all.
Bye-bye now.